Hello, UnwAIred community, and welcome. I'm Frankie Carrero, Director of Data and AI at VASS, a leading digital solutions company. We are present in 26 countries in Europe, the Americas, and Asia, where we work alongside our clients, partners, and key industry players. Together, we deliver the best-in-class digital innovation that shapes the landscape of banking, retail, insurance, public administration, utilities, telecommunications, and of course, media sectors. In today's episode, we're venturing into the heart of ethical technology with a focus on the responsible AI company. Following our approach based on mindful technology, we'll unravel what it means to integrate responsibility into the AI framework of a business. We'll also delve deep into the challenges and triumphs of building an AI that aligns with human values, and we will discuss why a strong commitment to ethical standards is crucial for the future of AI. Joining us today, we have a special guest, Richard Benjamins. He's Chief Responsible AI Officer at Telefonica and co-founder at OdiseIA. And at this major telecommunications firm, Richard has pioneered a culture that not only drives innovation, but also places a high priority on human welfare. Together, we will explore how companies can evolve into pillars of responsible AI, establishing new benchmarks for the industry and ensuring that as we progress technologically, we will stay true to our ethical foundations. Richard, thanks for joining us today.
Yes, Frankie, thank you very much for having me here. It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure for us. I think we're going to get straight away into the conversation. I'm gonna, if it's okay, I'm gonna ask you to explain how to our UnwAIred family what is exactly the responsible AI, and what is the role that it takes in a mother company. So it's your turn now, Richard.
Okay, so responsible AI for me is a kind of short name for the responsible use of AI. Yeah? Because it's not the technology as such that is responsible or not responsible. It's the use of this technology by people and organizations that makes it responsible or not responsible. There are two aspects related to responsible use of AI. Yeah? The most common one is to use technology and artificial intelligence in a responsible way. Yeah? And that means that while pursuing the objectives of an application, of an AI system, of any system that AI forms part of, pursuing the objectives in terms of benefits or economic impact, yeah? Also considering the potential negative impacts on people, society, or the environment. Yeah? So it's looking at a wider perspective, not only, let's say, at economic benefit, but also looking at the other aspects and trying to avoid them as much as possible. Yeah? Usually we call that from design, so we call it responsible use of AI by design, yeah? Because it's much easier to correct things in an early stage that once you are in market and you see there is an issue, and then you have to withdraw the product and handle a lot of communications which are hard to handle. Yeah? Now that's one part of responsible AI. The other part, I call it AI for good. Yeah? So it's not only that you can use this technology AI for benefits of companies or organizations, but actually you can also do great things with it for society and helping to solve the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations.
Well, I would say that introducing the word use in the definition is the correct thing to do, because we've all heard a lot of people saying an AI is doing this, an AI is doing that. And the fact is that AI does things for humans. There are humans behind an AI making the decision of what it
Exactly.
has to do. So yeah, I totally agree with your observation, and I think that it's really a good one. Now that we have established a first definition that anyone can have an idea of what responsible use, like you say, of AI is, well, we have to say that it's only a recent subject. There are there are not probably many cases out there, but have you seen some successful examples of responsible AI implementations that in different industries? Or do you have some examples in your head that you can tell us to illustrate what responsible AI is?
If you look at the first part, yeah, so let's say also called the ethical use of AI,
Mhm.
uh, I mean, of course, if everything goes well, there is no responsibility issue, there is no ethical issue, so you won't hear about anything about it because everything is fine. Yeah, what
Yeah.
you hear about is when things go wrong. Yeah. So, of course, there are hundreds or thousands examples of responsible AI, which means that nothing is going wrong. Yeah? Unfortunately, there are also quite some incidents with AI where things happen that should not have happened. Yeah? And so let me give you an example. Yeah, if you are a financial company, yeah, and you use artificial intelligence to decide whether you want to give your customers a loan or not, yeah, and
Mm.
you use a lot of attributes of your customers to calculate in the past which customers have paid back the loan and which customers have defaulted on the loan. Yeah, of course, you can learn a model about that that tries to predict for new customers whether they will pay you back or whether they will default. Now, if you do it right in a responsible way, then before launching that into the market, you have checked that this model is not discriminating against, let's say, sensitive attributes like gender. Yeah, you don't want to make a difference between giving a loan whether it's a male, yeah, or a female person, ethnical origin, political preferences. Well, the whole set of attributes that are actually protected by law and also are usually representing vulnerable groups. Yeah? So if you do that everything by design and you avoid those things, then you can give an example of the responsible use of AI. Yeah? Now, there are thousands of examples of incidents with AI. Actually, the OECD has an AI incidents monitor database with more than 7,000 documented cases of what has gone wrong with artificial intelligence. Yeah? A very insightful database to look at because it opens up your mind about what are exactly those problems that people suffer, what are vulnerable groups like minors, yeah, or women or whatever in different circumstances, and also where does it mostly happen, yeah? In what industry and in which countries. So very insightful if you're interested in knowing more about the responsible use of AI and what happens if you don't do it.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. Some things are only, well, we only get aware or become aware of things when they go wrong. So it's true. We've all seen many cases in different applications that have gone wrong. But when it goes wrong, someone has to take the responsibility for that. So can you tell us how is it right now? Is there any responsible person or I don't know organization, part of the organization when something goes wrong, or is it something that is still being treated by different legal authorities or entities?
Are you speaking now in general or for a
In
specific
general, yeah.
company? Well, in general, as of today, there is hardly any, let's say, official regulation on the use of this technology in an ethical, yeah, or responsible way. But there are many, let's say, voluntary recommendations, international organizations that recommend. Yeah? So uh, if you're interested as an organization to be part of that, of course, you can subscribe to the OECD, which has AI principles. UNESCO has its AI ethical recommendation, which is signed by 193 countries in the world. So it's by far the largest global organization that is in favor and stimulating the use of responsible AI by governments, by countries, but also by private sector companies within those countries. Yeah? So that's happening in general. Of course, if you go to companies as of today, as I said, there is no regulation yet. But for instance, like Telefonica, we have a methodology for the responsible use of AI by
Mm.
design. Of course, depending on where you are in this journey to start with it, usually it starts with ESG. Yeah, so in the part of environment, sustainability, and governance, in terms of being a responsible company requires, yeah, that you, for instance, take also care of climate change. You look at your supply chain, whether it's fair. You look at all those things, and as part of that, you can also look, which is in the case in Telefonica, also look at the impact of negative impact of artificial intelligence and try to avoid that. Yeah? Then you also have to do that with your suppliers.
Yeah.
Now, companies become more mature, actually, it can move out of ESG, which is a statement of voluntary, actually, into the compulsory part of compliance, yeah? Where it becomes mandatory within the organization to do it for every system of artificial intelligence that requires to do a risk assessment of each of the systems. Yeah? If there is low risks, then probably you don't have to do anything. For instance, if I want to recommend a specific movie in our TV offer, like Movistar Plus, then of course, if I make a wrong recommendation, well, the risk on people is hardly nothing. Yeah, but if I'm in a different sector, like medical sector, and I make a recommendation about a serious disease, I diagnose a patient with a serious disease, deciding on a treatment or not a treatment, that has a huge impact on people. So therefore, there is a risk assessment that highlights its risk, and the risk, if there are risks, it comes with certain requirements that you have to take care of before you can go into the market.
Okay, so then coming back to your role as a chief responsible AI officer, what is it that you do at Telefonica? What does your role entail? Is it just strategy, or do you need to be more hands-on?
Well, actually, it started in, let's say, 4 or 5 years ago as more strategy. This is something we had to do. So designing what should it be that we do, what should be the next steps, etc. And now we are actually implementing this across the group. Yeah. If you want, I can tell you a little bit of the journey that we went through in Telefonica to become.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, so as I said, in 2018, we published our ethical AI principles, yeah, stating if we use AI, then it should be fair. As it should not be discriminated, should not have bias that that we want to have, should be transparent and explainable when the use case requires that. I refer back to recommending a movie or doing a diagnosis in the medical sector, very different explainability, yeah, requirements. It should be human centered, so always to help humans, not substituting them, and also with the right autonomy or human intervention, depending on, yeah, the risks that might be involved. Now, the third principle we had is privacy and security, of course. But since this is already standard practice in many large organizations, so you don't have to put a lot of focus on that from the AI perspective, except for the specific AI security and privacy challenges there are, and there are some, even though not too many. And finally, it is with all our partners and third parties and joint ventures. So it's not only for ourselves, but also our providers and the organizations we work to. So we started that in 2018, and then we came up with a kind of questionnaire that we can use to evaluate our AI products. Yeah. We tested the questionnaire in several products. We changed it many times because it's not easy to measure to some extent responsibility or ethical use. But in the end, we revised, we tested with a lot of examples. And I think then in 2022, we ran a pilot in 4 business units with a governance model. Yeah? Because in the end, you can have principles, but if you don't have an operational model of how you do it, who has to do what, whose responsibility, what are the roles. And in that pilot, we identified the governance model with 3 new roles. Yeah? One is what we call a responsible AI champion. That's a person that is in any business unit that uses, builds, buys, or sells artificial intelligence systems, and is the go-to person in case of ethical questions about the use. Yeah, like a data protection officer for privacy. This is it's a data protection officer for ethical use of artificial intelligence. We also have we tested an AI ethics committee, yeah, which is an interdisciplinary group of experts, yeah, who know about human rights, who know about artificial intelligence, about privacy, about data. So it's really a multidisciplinary group. And then we also found the need for what we call an AI office, yeah, a kind of coordinating small group of people who push, yeah, the change through the organization. Yeah. So we ran that in 4 different business units for 1 year. And then when we finished, we evaluated and we wrote actually our governance model, which we finally approved officially last December. So now we have a governance model which we are currently implementing. So if you said, is it more strategy or is it more hands-on? Well,
Mhm.
it has gone from strategy to actually fully execution, which is very hands-on.
Okay, but Telefonica is a very mature company. You have a long trajectory working with data and AI, so you have everything. But for a company, maybe not so mature in terms of data and AI, or technology even, if they want to if they want to embrace responsible AI, what would you suggest them? Also starting from the strategy point of view, or do you think that there will be any other path as more simple for them?
When we started, there were no principles out there that we could select from. Now, any company can just say, okay, we follow OECD principles or we follow the UNESCO's principles, and there are lots of tools that come with it that you can use. Yeah. So from the part of the what should your principles be? I think there is a lot of support right now, or at least a lot of information. Yeah? How to implement it in an organization depends very much on what kind of organization you are. It depends on the sector, but also on your size and whether you actually are a simple user of artificial intelligence, have no knowledge about it, or where you are a developer. Yeah, you are a provider of this technology. So it makes a lot of difference where you are. If you are a startup using heavily AI for your products, um, then is a different question than if you are just a small and medium enterprise, yeah, that is using AI for optimizing your business. So different ways to look at it. Yeah? But at a minimum, I think what companies need to have is one person who is coordinating, yeah, these aspects, that is able to find out what are the systems that are currently in use or planning to be used in the company, and then even might even be use external help to assess, yeah, the impact of those systems on human rights or the environment or on people. Now, notice that this might sound very scary. That, oh, I have to do a lot of checks, but also you have to take into account that most AI applications are harmless. Yeah, they are simply optimizing something that is already going on since many years, and so that's not an issue at all. But for the highly risky ones, there you have to make an extra effort to actually, if you find anything in advance, try to mitigate it, prevent it, or maybe avoid it, rather than doing it once it's in the market. Yeah, I think for many small and medium enterprises, except if they are a very specific sector, yeah, it will not be a lot of high risk. So it will be little impact. The only thing they have to do is register or understand what systems they have and do a brief risk assessment. Yeah? For companies who are in a sector where that is affected, of course, they have to do a little bit more work, but that's also for the benefit of society.
Okay, yeah. So in some ways, what we're saying is that you have to choose the right problems, the right projects to apply these first steps, responsible AI. And many companies, there are many. Uh, they have many things that they want to do. They want to innovate in many different areas, and sometimes we find that those most innovative areas are the most well uh, the most prominent to be ethically, I won't say incorrect, but at least to have some issues. So how do you think that someone can discern between those applications that are the best to apply these first steps of the responsible AI process, or those applications that can become something, at least we could say, dangerous? And also because we are in a moment right now where there are some regulations that are going to be displayed in Europe. We don't know exactly what's going to, well, how it's going to affect to the companies and to the projects that we have to develop. So, what would be your recommendation in this case? Just to go for these simple projects when you know that you're not going to have any ethical problems, or do you think that there is a way to approach those other projects that can be ethically problematic?
Well, first of all, I don't think I agree with you if you say that the most innovative AI applications are the most dangerous ones concerning
Not
artificial.
always, not always. Yeah, but
But
sometimes that was
I
not my.
think, but I
Yeah,
think there is no relation whatsoever. It can be the case, but it's not that the more
yeah.
innovative, the more risk. Yeah, I would say it has nothing to do with it. Of course, if you want to start using AI, then try to find an area, and that is business as usual thinking. Yeah, that has impact on your business and doesn't have a lot of side effects. So if you are a company that starts, I would never recommend starting in the HR, yeah, the human resource or the people
Mhm.
area. First of all, because if you use AI for hiring, for promoting, for finding the best employee, the best connected, well, first of all, that's high risk in the future AI regulation, which you said. So you might be able to do it, but you have to go through several steps in order to avoid discriminating, because this is all about equal opportunities. And if you use AI without thinking, you might not provide equal opportunities to everybody without even being aware of it. Yeah? So that's the first thing. Second, if you use AI on employees, you might create the impression that you're actually tracking them on some attributes, yeah, and then trying to calculate from that with AI what are good performance or bad performance, and that is very delicate. Yeah, it creates a lot of unrest within organizations, a lot of issues with the Workings Council. And actually, in Spain, there is a recommendation from the Ministry of Education. I think this is the Ministry of Economy that states if you want to use AI in the labor area, then you have to comply with a lot of things already, yeah? Which is informing the employees, but also informing the working council. Yeah? So, but there are many other areas that you can use, yeah, that are not affected. If you are a small company or you are in the industrial sector, if you are working with have a factory with lots of machinery, yeah, of course, predictive maintenance, trying to optimize logistics within the in the factory. Usually, that doesn't involve anybody, any people. So you can do that. There's not a problem in that. So. Um, if you are interested in experimenting with what is it to make responsible use of AI, then you can take some delicate, yeah, use case. But otherwise, I would recommend to start with normal applications that don't have a high risk, to get acquainted with it, obtain the business benefits, and when you are a bit mature in that area, then you could try to move on to higher risk applications.
Okay, so now going a step further, we've seen that introducing the idea of responsible AI into a company is not precisely an easy task. There are ways to overcome that now, but it's not really an easy task. But besides, a company as huge as Telefonica works with different industry peers and also works with external partners. So, how do you approach collaboration with those external partners and other peers to promote responsible AI practices when you work in common projects?
Yes, so we do that all the time. Yeah, so we've been very vocal on the responsible use of technology in general and AI in specific, but we've always tried to convince others to do the same. Yeah, for instance, we are part of the some of the expert group of the OECD. Who has a lot of AI activity on responsible AI and governance of AI. We collaborate in groups with the World Economic Forum, also on AI governance. We are co-chairing the Business Council of UNESCO's AI recommendation together with Microsoft that brings together, let's say, in the beginning, mature businesses in terms of responsible AI to create material and best practices to share with other industries and other companies. Yeah. Uh, so that is really about working together to promote this. And the same in the GSMA, so this is the organizer of the Mobile World Congress. We are very active in the ethical AI, responsible AI part. They have a specific task force working on that called AI for Impact. that is partly focused on this, and how do you do that across the telecommunications sector, where we have a lot of sharing between peers. Today, it is still the case that there is a differential benefit if you do this, because you stand out towards the rest. But the reason for doing this is not to have a differential advantage, but is that other companies and every company and every public administration is using this technology in a responsible way, and not only in a profit-seeking way.
Okay, I have to say that you're also the one of co-founder of OdiseIA, which is an organization that serves as a point of reunion for a lot of people, but also a lot of companies that are working on this, also on responsible AI for good. What can you tell us about what OdiseIA means, and how is it also helping the environment in this case?
Yes, thank you for the question. So OdiseIA is a not-for-profit and independent organization that tries to help several stakeholders what it means to have an ethical and responsible use of artificial intelligence through different activities like thought leadership, but also events, reports, research, where we reach out to different stakeholders. First, this is for organizations in terms of public administrations, but private sector companies, who are interested in using artificial intelligence in a responsible way, but also for citizens, a society as a whole. Because usually in the discussions on the responsible use of AI, it is always a discussion between governments and companies, private sector. Of course, the academical world also plays a role here. But what is missing normally are the citizens. And in the end, it's the citizens and societies that are affected by potential negative impacts of this technology. And therefore, it's very important that those citizens are up to speed. They understand to a certain level how this technology worked, how they can be affected. And that's why we put special focus on civil society and vulnerable groups in terms of this technology. So OdiseIA was founded about 4 years ago by a group of independent experts that all have some relationship to artificial intelligence. It can be, let's say, university professors, journalists who write about technology, experts in technology, let's say lawyers. So very diverse group, but all related to the ethical use of artificial intelligence. And we do interesting products where we help organizations to assess the impact of their applications in terms of responsibility and ethics, across a range of sectors such as big tech, industry, defense, healthcare, insurance. So all very important sectors that need to uptake this technology for their benefit, but also need to know how to do that in a responsible way.
Thank you very much. I'm also a member of OdiseIA. I learned from it from you precisely like 3 years back, and I've seen it grow and play an important role in this AI environment the past few days. So now we're reaching the end of the interview, and I would like to ask you about a term that is becoming more, I would say, popular the past few months, which is transparency. And the way in which companies can ensure transparency in their AI systems, because we need we always or yeah we usually want to know what's the reason behind a decision when it comes to a human, but we would also would like to know what's the reason why a system, in this case an AI system, uh, throws a result or predicts something. So now that these days this is a very hot topic. What's your take on this? How do you think we can really confront transparency, and do you think that is possible nowadays?
Okay, thank you very much. Indeed, transparency is a very important question in certain use cases. Yeah, let me go one step back, and explain why this is so important. Because uh, artificial intelligence in the past was just a bunch of complex related rules, about certain things, and those rules were clearly understandable by people because they were written by people. So if a system come to a conclusion, you could actually trace back what has happened into the system, and you could say as an expert, well, this makes sense, or this doesn't make sense. No? Now, with the upcoming of deep learning, the systems have become so big, and there are no rules. It's just layers and numbers and vectors that it's very hard to understand from a human perspective. Why is the system saying this person has a disease and this person not? Yeah, or any complex task. Why is the system proposing this position in chess? And then it's not understandable by a human. So therefore, there are ways to open those black boxes where you can actually see why things are happening, and that is very important in, for instance, the medical domain, but also if you have in the legal sector, if you have a judge adopting a decision from a system that says, well, this person has better to stay in custody rather than releasing him until the date of court. Well, this has a huge impact on people. Therefore, if a medical expert or a physician, or if a judge or any other risky with impact on people's life uh, cannot understand why the system recommends one decision or another, then actually this person should not take into account this information, because it could be based on a superfluous relation, which can be very dangerous. Just an example of how this can be dangerous. If you look at, they did a lot of work with deep learning on trying to recognize animals, and then they did a test between wolves and dogs, and they trained an algorithm that was perfectly, with 99%, able to classify this is a dog, this is a wolf. And then they asked, show me the pixels why you think this is a dog, or show me the pixels why you think this is a wolf. And it turned out that in the wolf, the pixels that were highlighted, they showed snow. It turned out that most of the pictures with wolves were taken with snow in the background. So the algorithm learned, if I see snow, it is a wolf. Now, of course, that is untrue. Even though the decision was classified okay, and we don't want people to take over such decisions for a not valid reason, to take decisions that have impact on people's life. So transparency is very important for high-risk systems. It is not so important for systems that have no high risk. Again, if I want to recommend a song, well, why should I understand how that works? I might be interested why it recommends to me, but if it recommends the wrong song to me, there is no problem whatsoever. There's no impact on my life. Likewise with movies, and so likewise maybe with advertising to some extent. So there are a lot of systems where there is no need for transparency, because if there is no transparency and there is something going wrong, nothing happens. But there are many systems where it is. So people tend to say transparency is very important always, but I would not agree with that. It's very important for high-risk systems. For in the regulation of the European Commission or the European Union, transparency is compulsory for high-risk systems. It's not in general. Compulsory. Now, there is a new transparency requirement with these generative AI systems, these large language models. So these are even one step beyond complexity compared to deep learning, and actually they say great things. You can have conversations with it, but understanding how they come to such a coherent dialogue or conversation or output, nobody knows. We know how the technology works and what it does. But it's a simple, between brackets, technology. But by doing it at such a large scale, like training for 10 months and spending 10 millions on electricity of the machines, the output is surprisingly impressive. And the gap between what, for instance, ChatGPT tells me and understanding why it tells me that, beyond statistics, there is no explanation for that. So if we use ChatGPT for impactful decisions on people, explainability is a problem and transparency is a problem. And that's why that in the European regulation, there is an obligation on people or companies who use systems like Chat GPT, so the very big ones, to be able to be transparent, know transparently how those models have been trained, what are the boundaries, how good or how bad are they, and they need to know that before they actually can put the system in the market if it is high risk. If it's not high risk, you don't have to do anything. You just do it.
Okay, Richard, thank you very much. You know that, well, time flies, so we need to conclude this conversation. It's been really amazing for me to have you here today. Well, and thank you also for all your insights and for sharing it with the UnwAIred family, which is the audience that we have at the podcast. So thank you very much, and you will welcome in the future.
Yes, it was a pleasure to be here, Frankie. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
Thank you. So, well, for everyone, this wraps up today's episode. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with another deep dive into the world of artificial intelligence in our podcast series. So please stay tuned. And a big thank to you, to all of our listeners for joining us on this journey. So thank you very much.